So, what was the significance of foot washing and the anointing with oil? The practice of foot washing could be found all over Mesopotamian cultures, Greek, Roman, and Egyptian cultures. It was a daily routine as well as a religious and spiritual practice, and it was a sign of hospitality and required before entering various different holy sites such as temples. In Greece, water basins were provided in front of the temples for this very purpose. In Rome, you were considered uncivilized if you did not wash your feet. Homer referenced Odysseus as washing his feet multiple times throughout the story, and of course, there was Achilles who was dipped into the River Styx, and the only point of weakness for him was the part of his foot that wasn't washed with it. Furthermore, we see themes of uncleanliness synonymous with being spiritually unholy. Foot washing was required before any sacrificial offering. There are many references in the Old Testament to the practice of foot washing, and every family owned a basin or vessel which contained water used for foot washing, and the wealthier families had gold or silver vessels. In the New Testament, Jesus had his feet washed and was anointed with oil before his execution. Oil was used as part of the foot washing rituals, and it was used for anointing. Objects used in religious ceremony were anointed as well. In Exodus chapter 30, we see various oils and tree resins used for the anointing process, such as myrrh, cinnamon, and olive oil. Anointing was pretty common around the entire world. Olive oil was most commonly used around the Mediterranean, but so were castor oil, almond oil, frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, and cypress. The word Messiah, in fact, means anointed with oil. We can see a wide variety of anointing and foot washing in a variety of contexts, both religious and as a daily hygiene routine. So, what is the significance of foot washing and anointing with oil that would turn it from a simple hygiene practice to one indicating spiritual cleanliness? The answer is a mycological one. One of the most common forms of infection is infections of the feet by fungus. Fungal foot infections are a lot more complex than simply being a benign or cosmetic issue. They can leave the host immunocompromised, it can spread to other parts of the body, it can have neurological issues, it can lead to fatigue and the worsening of other chronic issues, and it opens allergy pathways to things such as mold spores. So why anoint with oil? All of the religious anointing oils are known antifungals and antimicrobials, like olive oil, castor oil, frankincense, myrrh, and cinnamon. Spirituality is synonymous with maintaining the microbiome, promoting good microbes, and removing bad microbes, and most of this will start with the feet. For the most part, ancient people had a limited supply of water, and so they prioritized cleaning their feet rather than bathing every day. But they did regularly clean themselves with olive oil, which was probably a lot more effective than even our modern showers. This is part 2, and going straight into it, this is why all religious practices use medicinal oils and plants. Spirituality and religions, they weren't fake belief systems, but they were microbial ones. Just because they didn't have microscopes doesn't mean they didn't sense these things. And in fact, you don't need microscopes to know how these things work. Simply by employing different medicinal plants, herbs, and oils, you could tell what the effects would be. Likewise, with smell, you can tell if something is good or bad, or if it's healthy or unhealthy. You're literally inhaling microscopic particles, and you have receptors to sense what those are. Spirituality is simply maintaining the microbiome, though there is a greater implication of maintaining the community and ecosystem that you're in. This is pretty obviously seen in the indigenous Australian practice, which they used to rub the intestines of a fallen comrade onto themselves, as they viewed it would imbue their spirit onto them, which they were essentially rubbing bacteria and other parts of the microbiome onto themselves. A similar practice was done with lion fat to gain courage. Eventually, though, the sacrament of foot washing was questioned by later church authorities, and slowly the process was seen as a more symbolic one and eventually as unnecessary except by a few denominations. In modern times, we wear a lot of socks and shoes, and this creates ideal environments for fungus to thrive. Your average laundry detergent, soap, and shampoo do not actually destroy fungals. What people used to do was hang their clothes out in the sun, which would destroy fungus, and also the feet would get more sunlight. There's a sort of neurological component, which is that it creates a complete blind side around foot hygiene. Fungal infections often hide themselves by manipulating the psychology of the host into not acknowledging it or simply skirting around the issue. If your foot smells bad, then that means there's something wrong with it, and oftentimes this is going to be a fungal infection. This leads to people being self-conscious of their feet, they're embarrassed, and they do nothing about it, and so it can thrive for decades. As mentioned in the last part, it can lead to a whole host of other health issues. Pretty much every other type of infection is dealt with a degree of urgency. If you cut your finger, you're going to put a Band-Aid on it, for example. Fungal infections are often ignored, and instead the host becomes very self-conscious and complacent. The problems become exacerbated as the allergen pathway opens up for mold spores, which cause even worse neurological issues. Maintaining foot hygiene was vital in ancient times, and it was spiritually significant. In modern times, we are exposed to the sun less, we wear more socks and shoes, and we don't anoint ourselves with oil. You can find the notes I've been using in the background in my Reddit community, which you can find in my link tree if you prefer to read the whole thing yourself. But thanks for watching.